Nick here at Green Space. Today I'm going to be talking about Adeniums, also known as desert roses. They are indigenous plants down to sub-Saharan Africa, as well as parts of the Middle East, and are predominantly grown for their large, showy pink to red flowers, and the swollen stem, or caudex as it's also known. They make fantastic horticultural specimens, either grown in pots, sometimes bonsai'd, or occasionally in the ground. And breeding work has been pushing flower color to whites and in purples more recently. Here in front of me, we have 4 different types: Adenium Multiflorrum, Adenium Arabicum, Adenium Somalisensi Seecrispum, and Adenium Arabicum, and we'll be talking about these more individually. Here we have 2 specimens of Adenium Multiflorrum. They are indigenous through South Central Africa down into South Africa. They tend to have a taller habit than some of the other Adenium types, and they don't tend to form the large thickened caudex at the base of the plant as in other species. Here we have a plant about 4 to 5 years old, and this one is about 2 years old. They have a definite dormancy period during our winter months here in Zambia around May, June, July into August, where the leaves will all drop, and that is when the flowers are produced, with these lovely red to pink pickety edges with a white center to them, and sometimes various amounts of frilled or wavy edges to the ends of the petals. So here we have one that's slightly more on the pinker side, and one that's a little bit more on the red side here as well. Here we have a specimen of Adenium Somalian Seecrispum. It comes from a very small area within Somalia. As contrasted to the other variety of the same species, this does not grow very tall, maybe about 30 to 40 centimeters maximum. And usually the caudex again would be below ground, but here we've started to expose it to get a slightly more ornamental aspect to the base of the plant. It's very much characterized by these very narrow leaves, usually with kind of a nice wavy margin to them, and these lighter pink flowers with the darker contrasting nectar guides that lead into the center of the throat of the flower. Here we have a specimen of Adenium Arabicum. It's indigenous to parts of the Middle East. It has a much more enlarged caudex, one of the largest in the genus, comparatively to the other species, forming this kind of nice fat stem over time, with these short, squat branches that come off of it. It also requires a winter dormancy period, usually at this time of year where it would have dropped all of its leaves, although this one hasn't at the moment. And during that period is when it produces its pinkish flowers. Just a bit of a sample, because these ones are not producing as many at the moment. The nice kind of pinky, light pinky tones to the flowers. One of the other easily identifiable characteristics of this plant, comparatively to almost all the others, is the thicker, more succulent leaves that have a slight kind of velvety or pubescent feel to them, which is unique as most of the other species have very smooth leaves. Here we have 2 Adenium Arabicum hybrids. I say hybrids because the true species Arabicum is much more difficult to find, existing naturally around between Senegal through to Kenya, up in North Sub-Saharan Africa. They are characterized more by a thickened caudex, or the thickened stem at the base, which can be accentuated again by lowering the soil level over time as you repot. Here, this 4 to 5 year old specimen that has happened to expose some of the roots, whereas in this 2-year-old specimen, it is still, the soil level is still at the original soil level when the seedling germinated. These generally tend to have sometimes larger pink or reddish flowers. Here's a red flowered variety there with more kind of pinky toned in this one here. And this, when I talk about the breeding work in Adenium, is the type that has been most bred to accentuate those flower colors and larger flowers. In cultivation, this can get approximately maybe about a meter or so tall and a meter or so wide, and doesn't have a required dormancy period, although during the colder winter months here in Zambia, reduction in the amount of watering is suggested so that the plant doesn't rot. These can be fairly susceptible to rot if given too much water during the cold weather. So here we have 3 of the different Adenium types sitting out in the front, all potted into these bell-shaped concrete pots. The Nesomalian Seecrispum, the Arabicum here, and the Adenium hybrid at the back. Now with the crispum, we've raised this quite a bit out of the soil level so we can expose this gnarly, nice thick caudex here for extra ornamental features when not in flower, while the flowers and the leaves sit quite high above the plant, showcasing the nice kind of dark pink and lighter pink tones to these flowers. The Arabicum, we've not raised it at all, but instead it's kind of stretched out and developed this nice elongated kind of caudex in which the stubby branches then shoot off from the top, with its flowers kind of nicely set above in a nice light pink there with a slightly darker edge. The Adenium hybrid, this one was planted quite early on and we didn't raise the trunk on it, so there's not much of a caudex showing here, but the branches project it quite nicely above with these whitish flowers with contrasting darker and lighter pink tones. Very lovely display with all 3 of them here at this time of year.